Picture your typical morning. The sun is rising, the birds are chirping, and you are shuffling into your kitchen, half awake, wearing sweatpants that haven't been washed since the last time Mercury was in retrograde. You reach into your pantry, grab a brightly colored cardboard box featuring a cartoon tiger or a hyperactive leprechaun, and pour yourself a bowl of breakfast cereal. It's sweet, it's crunchy, it's innocent. It is the absolute cornerstone of the modern, wholesome American morning. Except it's a lie. A massive, crunchy, multi-billion-dollar lie. The modern breakfast cereal wasn't invented by a friendly baker, a quirky chef, or a corporate mascot trying to give your kids a sugar rush. It was invented by this man, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, a fanatical, hyper-religious, yogurt-obsessed 19th century medical guru who was absolutely, fundamentally, undeniably terrified that you, yes, you, were touching yourself. Welcome to Audacious History. I'm your host, and today we are diving headfirst into the batshit crazy, intensely puritanical, and wildly hilarious origins of your morning bowl of flakes. This is a story about sibling rivalry, extreme bowel movements, the absolute fear of the human libido, and how a botched batch of stale wheat accidentally launched the greatest breakfast empire the world has ever seen. Grab a spoon, bitches. It's about to get weird. To understand the invention of cereal, we have to understand what an absolute clusterfuck the American digestive system was in the mid-19th century. Back then, breakfast wasn't the light, breezy affair. Oh, hell no. The average American breakfast consisted of heavy meats, sausages, scrapple, potatoes fried in a pound of bacon grease, and pie. Yes, pie. For breakfast. Because of this relentless diet of grease, salt, and dense meat, practically the entire nation was suffering from a condition they called dyspepsia. It was a catch-all term for chronic indigestion, heartburn, and the fact that everyone was severely, tragically constipated all the damn time. America was a nation desperately in need of a good shit. Enter the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Michigan, also known as the SAN. Founded by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the SAN was essentially a high-end wellness retreat for the rich, the famous, and the desperately bloated. If you were a millionaire in the late 1800s and your tummy hurt, you went to Battle Creek. We're talking Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Amelia Earhart. They all flocked to this place. And the man running the show was Dr. John Harvey Kellogg. Kellogg was a medical doctor, a brilliant surgeon, and an absolute, unrepentant megalomaniac. He wore all-white suits, he carried a cockatoo on his shoulder, I am not making that up, and he ruled the SAN with an iron, meticulously sanitized fist. Kellogg believed that all diseases started in the gut, but his treatments were, let's just say, extreme. He mandated endless exercise, freezing cold baths, and most famously, the yogurt enema. Yes, Kellogg would pump gallons of water into his patients from the bottom up, followed by a pint of yogurt to refresh the flora. And if you think that sounds like a miserable time, hold on to your hats, because we haven't even talked about the food yet. Dr. Kellogg was a strict vegetarian, but it wasn't just about animal rights or digestion. Kellogg had a much deeper, much darker theory about food. He firmly believed that spicy, sweet, or flavorful foods stimulated the body. And in Kellogg's mind, a stimulated body led to one thing and one thing only: sinful, uncontrollable, fleshly urges. That's right. Kellogg believed that eating a flavorful piece of beef or a dash of black pepper would instantly send your libido into the stratosphere and cause you to furiously masturbate. And to John Harvey Kellogg, masturbation was the greatest evil facing mankind. He literally wrote a massive, terrifying book about it. He claimed that self-pleasure caused 39 different diseases, including acne, palpitations, epilepsy, bashfulness, and ultimately insanity and death. He was so terrified of sexual urges that he never even consummated his own marriage. He and his wife slept in separate bedrooms their entire lives. The man was a walking, talking manifesto against the human orgasm. So, how do you cure the wealthiest, most powerful people in America of their sinful, horny urges? You feed them food so aggressively bland, so utterly devoid of joy, texture, or taste that their libidos simply pack up and die. Meals at Battle Creek Sanitarium were a culinary punishment. Kellogg served things like protos, a fake meat made from peanuts and gluten that tasted like a wet sponge. He served nuttos. He served zwieback, a twice-baked bread so incredibly hard that patients literally broke their teeth on it. The dining room was dead silent, save for the sound of millionaires weeping quietly onto their boiled cabbage. Running this empire of blandness required a lot of administration. Enter the unsung hero of our story, John's younger brother, Will Keith Kellogg, or WK for short. WK was the bookkeeper, the manager, and the doctor's personal whipping boy. John treated WK like absolute garbage. WK was forced to trot behind John's bicycle as he rode around town dictating notes. WK was made to polish John's shoes. He was paid a miserable salary while his brother soaked up all the fame and the yogurt-enema glory. But WK was a businessman, and he knew that the miserable food they were serving was a problem. The patients hated it. They needed a digestible bread substitute that didn't shatter human molars. So the brothers began experimenting in the sanitarium's basement kitchen. It is 1894. The brothers are trying to figure out a way to run boiled wheat through some metal rollers to create a thin, digestible sheet of dough. It's late. They've boiled a massive batch of wheat berries. But suddenly, John gets called away for a medical emergency. "William, cease your boiling. I am needed in the hydrotherapy ward. Mrs. Astor's bowels are staging a rebellion, and only I can negotiate a surrender. Leave the wheat. We shall return to it." But they didn't return to it. Not that night, nor the next day. The boiled wheat sat out in the damp, warm basement for a solid 2 days. By the time the brothers finally came back, the wheat had gone stale. It was slightly fermented, tough, and frankly, a little gross. WK looked at the giant pot of ruined grain. "Well, John, it's ruined. The starch has crystallized. We'll have to throw it out to the pigs and start over." "Throw it out? Do you know how much a bushel of wheat costs, William? I am not made of money. Run it through the rollers anyway. Force it through. The patients will eat what I give them, even if it tastes like a damp rug." WK, rolling his eyes so hard he practically sees his own brain, dumps the stale, slightly moldy wheat into the heavy iron rollers. He turns the crank. They expect to see a long, cohesive, damp sheet of dough come out the other side. But because the wheat had sat out, the moisture content had changed. The grains had individualized. Instead of a sheet, out came hundreds of individual, perfectly flattened little flakes. WK stared at them. John stared at them. Not wanting to waste anything, they decided to throw the flakes into the massive sanitarium ovens to bake them. just to see what would happen. When they pulled the trays out, the flakes were toasted. They were golden brown. They were crispy. WK took one, popped it into his mouth, and heard a sound that had never before echoed through the miserable halls of the Battle Creek Sanitarium. Crunch. They served them to the patients the very next morning. Dr. Kellogg served them proudly, completely convinced that he had created the ultimate punishment. It was just wheat, baked into dry, flavorless scab. Surely this would kill any lingering sexual desire in his wealthy patients. Eat your granose flakes, Mr. Henderson. Eat them and let the dry, joyless texture purify your wicked, wandering mind. Feel the blandness scrub your soul clean of its base, carnal desires. My God, Doctor, it's a miracle. It crunches. It doesn't taste like wet sawdust. It doesn't feel like I'm chewing on a woolen sock. It's actually good. Please, sir, I beg of you, may I have another bowl? The doctor was horrified. The patients loved the flakes. They loved them so much that when they were discharged from the hospital, they actually wrote letters begging Kellogg to ship the flakes to them through the mail. The absolute madman had accidentally created something delicious, or at least delicious compared to the literal garbage they had been eating. W.K. Kellogg saw the letters. He saw the demand. And his brilliant, long-suppressed business brain kicked into overdrive. They had stumbled onto a gold mine, a convenient, ready-to-eat breakfast food that didn't need to be cooked, didn't rot, and could be shipped anywhere in the country. WK began experimenting with corn, finding that corn made a much crunchier, more satisfying flake than wheat. Corn Flakes were born. But there was a problem. A massive, insurmountable, deeply ideological problem. WK knew if they were going to sell these flakes to the general public, to normal people who weren't rich patients forced to eat bland food, they had to make them taste better. They needed longer shelf life. They needed a massive appeal. W.K. Kellogg took a deep breath, looked his terrifying, overbearing older brother in the eye, and uttered the most dangerous word in the English language. John, we need to add sugar. All hell broke loose. You would have thought WK had just suggested they turn the sanitarium into a 24-hour brothel. Sugar? Are you out of your goddamn fucking mind, William? Sugar is the devil's dandruff. It is the fuel of the fornicator. If we put sugar on these flakes, the men of America will be struck with an unstoppable frenzy of self-pollution. There will be orgies in the streets. We are trying to stop people from touching their genitals, William, not throw gasoline on the fire. No one is masturbating, John. They are too tired from the yogurt enemas and the freezing baths. The patients are miserable. They are sneaking out in the middle of the night to the local tavern to eat sausages and weep. We have a product that could make millions of dollars, John. If we don't mass produce this, someone else will. And WK was absolutely right, because someone else did do it. Enter Charles William Post. C.W. Post was a patient at the sanitarium. He hated the treatments, but he absolutely loved the weird little food experiments. He paid close attention to what the Kellogg brothers were doing. When John Kellogg refused to commercialize his recipes, C.W. Post checked out of the SAN, walked down the street, and started his own damn cereal company. Post invented grape nuts. He invented Post Toasties. He made millions of dollars overnight, practically stealing the entire concept of cold breakfast cereal right out from under the Kellogg's noses. That was the final straw for W.K. Kellogg. He had spent his entire life being treated like garbage by his megalomaniac brother. He had watched millions of dollars walk out the door because his brother was terrified of the human sex drive. In 1906, WK finally snapped. He told his brother to go to hell, packed up his recipes, and walked out. WK founded the Battle Creek Toasted Corn Flake Company, and the very first thing he did, the absolute most magnificent middle finger he could muster, he dumped a shitload of sugar onto the flakes. He malted them, he sweetened them, he made them absolutely delicious, and the public lost their goddamn minds. The cereal was an instant astronomical success. W.K. Kellogg became one of the wealthiest men in America. He out-marketed everyone. He put his own bold red signature on every single box to prove it was the original Kellogg product, a signature you still see on every box of Kellogg cereal today. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, meanwhile, was furious. He sued his brother. He sued him for years over the rights to the family name. The legal battles were vicious, petty, and deeply personal. But WK won. The courts ruled that when people heard the name Kellogg, they thought of the sweet, crunchy commercial Corn Flakes, not the weird, puritanical doctor who was obsessed with enemas. The brothers never reconciled. They hated each other for the rest of their lives. Dr. Kellogg continued to run his sanitarium, preaching the evils of masturbation, meat, and flavor until he died in 1943. W.K. Kellogg ran his cereal empire, becoming a legendary philanthropist and cementing his legacy as the king of the American breakfast until he passed away in 1951. And so, the next time you walk down the cereal aisle, mesmerized by the cartoon mascots, the marshmallows, and the insane amounts of high fructose corn syrup, take a moment to reflect. Every single box of brightly colored, sugar-blasted morning joy exists simply because one miserable, puritanical doctor tried to make a food so incredibly terrible that it would stop people from touching themselves. And in his desperate, fanatical quest to kill the human libido, he accidentally gave us the sweetest, most satisfying breakfast in history. I'm your host, and this has been Audacious History. If you like this episode, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. Smash the like button, and for the love of God, eat your breakfast however the hell you want. See you next time, History Buds.